You know that feeling when you check your bank account, and you see that number hit 4 digits for the first time in a long time? It sits there, staring back at you. $1,000. Maybe $1,200. And suddenly, this weird sense of calm washes over you. You take a deep breath. You feel like you've finally made it. You feel safe. You think to yourself, okay, if something happens, I've got this. I have an emergency fund. I'm an adult now. It's a milestone, right? It's the finish line for so many financial advice columns, the baby step that everyone talks about. You see that number, and you feel invincible. You feel like you can handle whatever the world throws at you. And then reality hits. Usually, it hits in slow motion. Maybe you're driving on the highway, and you hear that distinct thump-thump sound of a tire blowing out. Or you wake up on a Tuesday morning, and your car just won't start. Or you get a letter from your dentist saying that weird pain in the back of your mouth isn't just a sensitive tooth, it's a root canal. And suddenly, that $1,000 doesn't look like a shield anymore. It looks like a drop in the bucket. It looks like a joke. You realize, with a sinking feeling in your stomach, that the safety net you thought was made of steel is actually made of tissue paper. That safety you felt? It was an illusion. My name is Mac, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck in the same financial patterns for decades. And honestly, one of the most dangerous patterns I see, something that keeps people stuck in a cycle of anxiety, is this obsession with the $1,000 emergency fund. It's not that saving $1,000 is bad. It's not. It's actually a great start. But the problem is that we treat it like the destination. We treat it like the armor that's going to protect us from the dragons of life, when in reality, it's barely enough to buy a sword. Today, I want to break down why that number is dangerously outdated. We're going to look at the math, the psychology, and the cold, hard reality of what emergencies actually look like in 2024 and beyond. Because if you think $1,000 is enough to save you, you're walking a tightrope without a net, and I don't want you to fall. I want you to look at your finances, look at your life, and realize that security requires a lot more than what the old financial gurus told you. Let's get into it. So, let's start with the elephant in the room. Where did this $1,000 number even come from? It's a nice, round, psychological number. It feels substantial. It's 4 digits. It's the baby step that a lot of you have heard about for years. And look, I get it. If you're starting from zero, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, saving that first $1,000 feels like climbing Everest. It is a victory. It proves to yourself that you can save. It changes your mindset from I'm broke to I have something. That psychological shift. It's huge. It matters. But here's the thing. The financial world has changed drastically since that number became the standard. We're talking about a number that has stuck around for decades, while the cost of, well, everything has skyrocketed. Inflation is the silent thief that eats away at the value of your cash. Think about it. What could $1,000 buy you in 1995? A heck of a lot more than it can buy you today. Back then, that was a solid down payment on a decent used car. It was months of rent in some places. Today, it's a car repair. Maybe. If you're lucky. I remember a few years ago, I had this old sedan. I loved that car. It was paid off, reliable, or so I thought. One morning, I'm driving to work, and the engine light flickers on. Then the temperature gauge spikes. Long story short, the radiator blew. I towed it to the mechanic, thinking, okay, it's a radiator, how much can it be? $300. No. The radiator was the least of my problems. The overheating had warped the cylinder head. The quote to fix it, $2,800. I just sat there in the waiting room, smelling the stale coffee and tire rubber, looking at that piece of paper. If I had only had $1,000 in the bank, which was exactly what I had at the time, I would have been dead in the water. Literally. The car was worth maybe $3,000. I couldn't fix it, and I couldn't sell it. That $1,000 emergency fund didn't save me. It just delayed the panic by about 20 minutes. And that brings me to the first major reason why $1,000 is a myth, the cost of mobility. For most of us, our car is our lifeline. It gets us to the job that pays the bills that allow us to save the money. If the car dies, the income dies. And cars today, they are computers on wheels. You can't just fix them with a wrench and a YouTube tutorial anymore. I have a friend who drives a relatively modern electric vehicle. Great car, saves a ton on gas. But he hit a pothole, just a pothole, and messed up the alignment and damaged a sensor in the wheel well. The repair bill was $1,400 for a sensor and alignment. He looked at me and said, "Mac, if I didn't have my credit card, I wouldn't have been able to get to work on Monday." And that's the trap. The car payment trap that nobody talks about often starts with an underfunded emergency fund. You have $1,000 saved. A $1,500 repair happens. You don't have the cash. What do? You put it on a credit card. Now you're paying 22% interest on that repair. Or worse, you go to the dealership, realize your car is toast, and trade it in for a new car with a $500 a month payment that you can't afford, all because you didn't have the cash buffer to fix the old one. It's a domino effect. $1,000 is basically the admission fee to get into the I have a functioning car club, but it's nowhere near enough to stay in it. Let's pivot to something even scarier than car repairs. Healthcare. If you live in the US, you know exactly where I'm going with this. The healthcare system is a minefield of hidden costs, deductibles, and out-of-network surprises. I want you to think about your health insurance. Do you know your deductible? Honestly, be real with me. Do you know it? A lot of people think, "Oh, I have insurance, I'm fine." But the average deductible for an individual plan is around $1,700. For a family plan, it can be $3,000, $4,000, even higher. So, imagine this scenario. You wake up at 2 a.m. with a sharp pain in your side. It's appendicitis. You have to go to the ER. You need surgery. It's a routine procedure, sure, but the bills that follow are anything but routine. You get the surgeon's bill, the anesthesiologist's bill, the hospital facility fee. Even with insurance, you are going to hit that deductible almost instantly. And if you have a high deductible plan, you could be on the hook for $3,000 or $4,000 out of pocket before insurance kicks in a dime. If you're sitting there with your $1,000 emergency fund, feeling proud, and then you get an appendicitis, you are instantly in medical debt. That emergency fund is wiped out, and you still owe another $2 or $3 grand. And now you're paying off that medical debt while trying to rebuild your savings. You're back at zero, but worse than zero, you're in the red. It's a psychological gut punch that makes people want to give up entirely. They think, "I saved $1,000, and it vanished in a single night. Why even bother?" And let's not even talk about dental issues. Honestly, teeth are just bones in your head that want to bankrupt you. A root canal and a crown? That's easily $2,000 out of pocket if you don't have dental insurance, or even if you do, the coverage is usually capped so low it's almost insulting. You bite down on a piece of popcorn wrong, crack a molar, and boom, there goes your rent money. $1,000 doesn't cover a serious medical event. It barely covers the co-pays for the tests to figure out what the event is. This brings us to the third, more subtle danger, the false sense of security. This is the psychological trap. It's the "I'm good" syndrome. You see $1,000 in your savings account, and your brain turns off the scarcity mode. You think, "I have a buffer. I can go out to dinner. I can buy that new video game. I can upgrade my phone." You start spending a little more freely because you feel safe. You feel like you have a cushion. But it's a phantom cushion. It's like wearing a life jacket that's only half inflated. You feel safe jumping into the water, but the moment the waves pick up, you realize it's not keeping you afloat. And because you felt safe, you might have taken risks you wouldn't have otherwise taken. You might have stayed in a job that was unstable or delayed looking for a better one, because hey, I have my emergency fund. Then the layoff comes, and $1,000 covers, what? 2 weeks of groceries? Maybe a month if you really stretch it? Unemployment is the ultimate emergency. And $1,000 is laughably insufficient for a job loss situation. The average time it takes to find a new job varies, but let's say it takes 3 months. If your burn rate, the amount of money you need to survive each month, is $3,000, which is actually low for a lot of cities by the way, you need $9,000 to survive that gap. $1,000 covers 10 days. 10 days. That's not an emergency fund, that's a weekend trip to Vegas. I was talking to a guy recently, a smart guy, makes good money. He was telling me about how he keeps $2,000 in a separate account for emergencies. He felt very secure. Then his water heater burst. Water everywhere, ruined the carpet in the basement, needed a new water heater, needed the carpet dried and replaced. Total bill, $4,500. He looked at his $2,000 and realized he was going to have to put the rest on a credit card. He told me, "I thought I was over-prepared." And that's the danger. We prepare for the average problem, but life doesn't give us average problems. It gives us the perfect storm problems. Let's talk about housing. If you own a home, you know that your house is basically a living, breathing entity that constantly asks for money. A lot of financial experts say you should budget 1% of your home's value for repairs every year. So, if you have a $300,000 house, that's $3,000 a year. But here's the kicker, expenses don't come in smooth, monthly increments. They come in massive, painful lumps. The HVAC system doesn't slowly degrade over 10 years and give you a discount on the replacement. It waits until the hottest day of July, when it's 100 degrees outside, and then it dies. And replacing an HVAC system? That's $6,000 to $10,000. A roof? $10,000 to $20,000. Foundation issues? Don't even get me started. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Even if you rent, you're not safe. Your landlord might decide to sell the property. You get 30 days notice. You need a security deposit, first month's rent, last month's rent, moving truck costs. Moving is expensive. It costs thousands of dollars. If you're sitting on $1,000, you are one eviction notice or one broken lease away from financial disaster. You can't afford to move, so you might be forced to stay in a bad situation, or you have to borrow money from family, which brings a whole other level of stress and shame into the picture. And honestly, this leads to a point that I think is the most overlooked aspect of emergency funds, the opportunity cost of being broke. When you don't have a real emergency fund, you lose options. You lose freedom. Let's say you're in a job that is toxic. Your boss is a nightmare, the commute is killing you, and you're miserable. But you have $1,000 in the bank. Can you quit? No. You can't. You are trapped. You are a prisoner to the paycheck. But if you had $10,000 or $20,000, that's FU money. That's the ability to look your boss in the eye and say, "This isn't working for me anymore," and walk away with your head held high. That's the ability to take a month off to find the right job, not just the next job. An underfunded emergency fund doesn't just risk your bank account, it risks your mental health and your career trajectory. It forces you to make decisions out of fear, not out of strategy. I remember when I finally broke past the $5,000 mark in my savings. It wasn't life-changing money in terms of buying things, but it was life-changing in terms of how I felt. I walked differently. I slept better. I didn't wake up in a panic at 3 a.m. wondering what would happen if my car broke down. That stress that lives in the back of your head, the background noise of what if it went quiet. Or at least, it got a lot quieter. That peace of mind is worth more than any luxury item you could ever buy. And you can't get that peace with $1,000. It's just not enough to quiet the noise. So, if $1,000 isn't the number, what is the number? This is where I'm supposed to give you a formula, right? Well, the classic advice is 3 to 6 months of expenses. And honestly, that's still the gold standard. But I want to push you even further. I want you to calculate your survival number. Not your I want to keep my Netflix and my daily latte number. I want you to calculate how much cash you absolutely need to keep a roof over your head, food in your fridge, the lights on, and the car running. Take that number and multiply it by 6. That is your minimum baseline. If that number is $2,500 a month, you need $15,000. Does that sound impossible? Does it sound overwhelming? Good. It should. It should feel big because the risks are big. But don't let the size of the number paralyze you. You don't eat an elephant in one bite. You eat it one bite at a time. The jump from $0 to $1,000 is the hardest. The jump from $1,000 to $5,000 is where the magic happens. That's where you start to build momentum. Once you have $5,000, you can handle the car repair and the root canal in the same month without panic. Once you have $10,000, you can handle a job loss for a few months. And let's talk about where you keep this money. Do not, I repeat, do not keep your emergency fund in the stock market. I don't care if the market is up 20% this year. If the market crashes the same week your car breaks down, you've lost your principal and you have to sell low. That's a double loss. This money is not for investing. It is for insurance. Keep it in a high-yield savings account. Keep it separate from your checking account so you don't accidentally spend it on a fun emergency like a concert ticket or a sale at the mall. Make it slightly annoying to access. It needs to be there, but it shouldn't be easy to touch. I want to tell you a story about my uncle. My uncle was the most frugal guy I knew. He wasn't rich by any stretch, he worked a normal job, but he always had cash. He called it his coffin money, a bit dark I know, but he was a practical guy. One day, his brother, my other uncle, got into serious legal trouble. He needed bail money, and he needed a lawyer, fast. It was a crisis. The family was panicking. My uncle walks in, goes to the bank, pulls out this massive chunk of cash, and solves the problem. He didn't have to beg a bank for a loan. He didn't have to liquidate his retirement accounts and pay penalties. He just handled it. When I asked him about it later, he said, "Mac, money in the bank is options. It's not about the things you can buy. It's about the problems you can make go away." That stuck with me. $1,000 can barely make a small problem go away. $10,000, $20,000, that can change the trajectory of your life when things go wrong. It can save a family member. It can save your house. It can save your sanity. We need to stop viewing the emergency fund as a static number we hit and then check off a box. It's a dynamic, living buffer that needs to grow as your life gets more complex. If you get married, the buffer needs to grow. If you have kids, oh man, if you have kids, $1,000 is a joke. Kids are walking emergency generators. They break arms, they need braces, they ruin carpets, they outgrow clothes. If you have dependents, your emergency fund needs to be a fortress. A $1,000 fund for a family of 4 is negligence. It's hoping for the best in a world that rarely delivers it. Let's talk about inflation and the silent erosion. Even if you hit your $1,000 goal, by the time you read this sentence, it's worth less. Inflation is currently running hot. Your $1,000 next year might only have the buying power of $950 today. If you keep that $1,000 sitting in a regular checking account earning 0.01% interest, you are losing money every single day. This is why I'm so passionate about this topic. People work so hard to save that initial lump sum, and they think they're done. They let it sit there, rotting away with inflation, completely unprepared for the inflated costs of the emergencies they are saving for. You have to adjust your goalposts. 5 years ago, a new set of tires might have been $600. Today, for a decent set on an SUV, try $1,000 to $1,200. Just tires. The goalposts have moved. If your savings goal hasn't moved with them, you are aiming for a target that isn't there anymore. You are preparing for the 2015 economy in a 2024 world. So, what's the takeaway here? I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm not trying to say, give up, it's hopeless. I'm trying to light a fire under you. I'm trying to get you to look at that number in your bank account, and instead of saying I'm safe, I want you to say I'm started. That's the shift. The $1,000 is the start line. It is not the finish line. It is the warm-up lap. When you start looking at your finances through this lens, you start making different decisions. You might look at that new car lease and think, you know what? I'll keep my old beater for another year and throw that $400 payment into my real emergency fund. You might look at that vacation and think, let's do a staycation this year and put the $1,000 towards my safety net. It changes your priorities. It stops being about deprivation and starts being about protection. You aren't not buying coffee, you are buying peace of mind. I want you to imagine a world where your car breaks down and you don't have a panic attack. You just hand the mechanic your card and say, "Fix it." You pick up your car the next day, and you don't think about the money again. That is the goal. That is the level of wealth we are striving for, not just to buy flashy things, but to be bulletproof against the chaos of life. We also need to talk about high-yield savings accounts. If your emergency fund is sitting in a traditional bank savings account earning 0.01% interest, you are essentially losing money. There are online banks right now. No, I'm not going to name drop specific ones because that changes all the time, but do your research. There are banks offering 4%, even 5% interest on savings accounts. Let's do the math. If you have $10,000 in a regular bank, you make $1 a year. $1. If you have it in a high-yield savings account at 4.5%, you make $450 a year. That's free money. That's money that helps fight inflation. That's your emergency fund growing itself. Why leave that money on the table? Is it laziness? Is it inertia? Probably. But setting up a high-yield account takes 15 minutes. 15 minutes of mild annoyance on a Saturday morning can earn you hundreds of dollars a year. It's a no-brainer. If you are serious about your emergency fund, make sure it's working as hard as you are. So, let's recap the dangers of the $1,000 myth. First, inflation. It buys less than it used to. Second, modern complexity. Cars and houses are more expensive to fix. Third, healthcare. Deductibles are higher than $1,000. Fourth, job loss. It covers days, not months. And fifth, psychology. It gives you a false sense of security that leads to riskier behavior. It is a trap. A well-intentioned trap, but a trap nonetheless. Now, let's talk about the debt factor. A lot of people say, "Mac, I have $1,000 in savings, but I have $5,000 in credit card debt. Should I use the savings to pay off the debt?" This is the classic pay-off debt versus save debate. And my answer is usually, keep the $1,000 for now. It's your I messed up fund. Because if you pay off the debt and have $0, and then an emergency happens, you're just going to swipe that credit card again and you're back where you started. It's a cycle. But once you have that initial $1,000 buffer, every extra dollar should go to the debt. And once the debt is gone, you attack the emergency fund like a beast. You build it up to $5,000, then $10,000. You don't pause. You don't stop to celebrate at $1,000. That's just clearing the runway. You need to take off. I think, deep down, we all know $1,000 isn't enough. We know it in our gut. When we see the news about layoffs, when we see the prices at the grocery store, we know that $1,000 doesn't go far. But we lie to ourselves. We say, it's better than nothing. And it is. But better than nothing is a low bar. Better than nothing doesn't protect your family. Better than nothing is a gamble. I want you to stop gambling. I want you to treat your financial security with the seriousness it deserves. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about being prepared. It's about being a responsible adult in a world that is increasingly unpredictable. It's about looking at your bank account and seeing a fortress, not a fence. And look, I get the pushback. "Mac, I barely make ends meet. How am I supposed to save $10,000? I hear you. I really do. It's hard. The system is rigged against a lot of us. Wages haven't kept up with productivity. Housing costs are insane. But this is exactly why the emergency fund is more important than ever. You cannot afford to have a financial setback wipe you out. You have to build the wall, brick by brick, even if it takes you 3 years. Even if it takes you 5 years. The time is going to pass anyway. You might as well spend it building your safety net. Start small. Save your first $1,000. Celebrate it for 10 minutes. Then, move the goalpost. Set your sights on $2,000. Then $3,000. Automate it. Make it boring. $50 a week. $100 a week. Whatever you can do. The pain of saving is temporary. The pain of being broke during a crisis? That lasts a long, long time. So, where does this leave us? We've torn down the pedestal that $1,000 sits on. We've looked at the math, the psychology, and the reality of emergencies in the modern world. And hopefully, You're looking at your savings account a little differently right now. I want you to remember that saving money isn't about depriving yourself of joy. It's not about hoarding gold like a dragon in a mountain. It's about freedom. It's about sleeping soundly at night. It's about looking at the future, not with dread, but with confidence. $1,000 is a great start. It's the first step on a long journey. But please, for the sake of your future self, don't stop there. Don't let the financial gurus convince you that the bare minimum is enough for you. You deserve more than the bare minimum. Your family deserves more. Your peace of mind deserves more. Take a look at your budget this week. Find one thing, just one thing you can cut. That streaming service you barely watch. The takeout you get every Friday. Take that money and automate a transfer to a high-yield savings account. Start building the real wall. Start stacking the real bricks. Because life is going to happen. The car is going to break. The tooth is going to ache. The job might disappear. And when it does, I want you to be ready. I want you to be the person who handles the crisis, pays the bill, and moves on with their life. You can do this. It's going to take time, it's going to take discipline, but it is going to be worth it. Trust me. The person you become with $10,000 in the bank is a lot calmer, a lot happier, and a lot freer than the person stressing over $1,000. Let's get to work. I'll see you in the next one.